What up, Internet? Welcome back. RynoRyder's podcast. It's been a while since, and obviously we don't have a mic, so I'm just going to talk to the camera. It's been a while since I've done one of these, but I could not come back with a stronger guest. This is writer, director, producer, technically actor, right?
Craft
services. Eric England, known Eric for fire.
Yeah, fire effects.
Known Eric for a little while. I was a fan of his before we got to meet.
Yeah, thank you.
And he was kind enough to, when I reached out to him, to respond back, be kind, be nice,
be a human.
Yeah, right. So I'm just gonna dig into. I'll tell my origin story. I think I've told you how I discovered you, and then I just kind of want to trace it back to your roots and
cool.
Yeah. All right. So I distinctly remember exactly where I was. I was working at a Baja Cantina down in Venice. I was on my way into my shift. I was listening to the Woody Show, parked my car, and they were like, "Oh, we got this director, Eric England. He has this new movie, Contracted." And I was like, "Who the fuck is this guy?" And so I was like, "All right, well, I got to look him up." And I had seen Madison County.
Oh wow, cool.
Because Madison County was around the same time that I was doing Evidence.
Yeah.
So like we put Madison County as like, well, it was made for this and made X.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? It's like
we were the reference point.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So I was familiar with it, and then I saw Contracted, and it's really, really good, man. Like, just not only like in terms of like just style and everything like that, but you really know how to craft a story, how to tell a story. And then I was hooked, and then reached out to you on Facebook. You replied back. And now we're acquaintances.
Yeah.
A little bit beyond that, I would say. And you've done 2 movies since then?
Yeah. I've slowed down.
Yeah, right.
Hopefully they're getting better though.
Yeah. So let's go back to the beginning. I know you're from Arkansas, right?
Arkansas, yeah.
Yeah. So Contracted was your third
movie.
Feature,
Technically my fourth. I shot a movie before Madison County a lot of people don't know about, but that was kind of a proof of concept for Madison County that we never finished. So Contracted ended up being the third movie that I directed, but ironically the second movie to come out. So,
right, because Roadside came out.
So Roadside came out after that, which was weird. I know a few filmmakers have had that happen. And as a filmmaker, it's almost like being a father. It's like you want your kids to come out in
order, like
in the order they were conceived. So yeah, but yeah, Contracted was the third movie.
Tell me the first. So you made the one you did before
Hostile Encounter is what it's
Hostile
called.
Encounter?
Yeah.
Right. So tell me, walk me through the transition from Arkansas to LA.
Yeah. So the transition from Arkansas to LA started with, what the hell am I going to do with my life? What do I want to do that I can actually sustain going to work, waking up every day, and seeing this through is like, all right, I want to commit myself to this. I have big commitment issues because I grew up in a very specific place in the world, in the country, and we're seeing kind of the way it sees the world now. So, when I was growing up, I loved where I came from, and I loved kind of the culture around me, but I knew there was a big world out there, and my parents and family didn't have a lot of money, so I wasn't on airplanes. I was just growing up watching movies, very similar to like a Tarantino kind of upbringing where, as creepy as it sounds, like it's like that Jim Carrey movie, The Cable Guy. Like you're kind of raised by the TV and the cinema,
No, I was the same. I'm the same way.
Yeah.
I always say movies have never let me down.
Yeah, absolutely.
People, parents,
they'll screw you
everything.
Over all the time.
Movies, not even the shittiest ones. Doesn't matter.
Yeah, it's almost like pizza. It's like you watch a bad movie, you can still get something out of it, And that's a beautiful way of looking at it, man. And I just sidestep. I wish more people kind of saw art in general, but especially movies like that. But as a kid, I just remember never feeling like I saw a bad movie. It was like, even if I didn't resonate with the movie or the movie wasn't lingering in my head for weeks or months later. Like, I enjoyed going somewhere else, you know? And so when I was old enough to like get in my car and you know, move outside of my parents' house, I was like, I need to go wherever that is, you know? And I just knew it was in LA. Like, I wanted to go to film school. I thought about Florida, Full Sail, thought about NYU, because like Eli Roth was a filmmaker I was big on, and I knew he had gone there. And you know, I was really looking for something that was just so outside the norm of what I was raised around, which was be a farmer, a you know, a sports coach, a pastor, you know, whatever that is. So I was like, I've got to get out. I've got to get to somewhere that's more creative, more, you know, intellectually stimulating, and just has more culture, you know. So
you know what's interesting about that, just to
natural to get out.
completely interrupt, but the fact that you had that that kind of vision or sense of like there's more out there,
fear,
but
yeah,
but you've kept your backwoods roots in your films.
Yeah. Sometimes,
you know what I mean? Like,
I think that's kind of like you know, that's like the dirt you can never wash off,
right?
You know? But I mean, yeah, it's kind of like you know, anything else. You're inspired by where you come from. It's in your DNA. It's who you are. So, you know, again, I knew that was going to go with me wherever the hell I went. So I knew I needed to find something that felt different from where I come from, because the artistic endeavors that I wanted to explore just weren't being presented to me, and they also weren't being supported. You know, no one knew where to go, what to do, or how to figure it out. So all I knew was movies were made in Los Angeles, so that's where I needed to be, because looking at New York, Florida, and a couple other places, I was like, you know, I just can't imagine that the energy was there, you know. And I'd never been to LA, so I didn't know what the energy was. I just felt a connection. So I, you know, grabbed some money from Uncle Sam in the form of school loans and moved out here to LA to start doing the film school thing. And I was 19.
You didn't make anything before moving here to LA?
I shot like one or two. I helped shoot a music video, and then I shot like a couple of short films for my girlfriend, who was in her final year of school at the time, and she had to turn in some term papers that I was like, why don't we just shoot as little short films? So like I did like one or two of those things, but like I couldn't even really tell you how to. I think I shot it with whatever settings were on the camera when it first got out of the box, like a DVX, and I cut it on like Windows Movie Maker. You know what I'm saying? Like, I had no idea what I was doing. So by the time I actually touched a real camera, you know, or anything close to a real camera in film school, it might as well have been, you know, an alien instrument.
Where'd you go to school?
The LA Film School in Hollywood.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
For what, like 2 years?
No, it was the original 11-month thing. So it was right after I graduated, it became like an accredited program. So like when I went, it was more of like a trade school.
Right.
And that was what was appealing to it. Was I thought you could just learn like welding, like you could just learn to be a director, and I guess, you know, to a degree you can, but you know, the school was really more oriented towards it, you know, if you want to be a gaffer, if you want to be a grip, if you know, it's a great place to learn the equipment, get your hands on, get some networking, and get plugged in. But I really just used it as an opportunity to kind of learn whatever the hell I could about filmmaking. You know, like I said, because I was really so fresh that even learning how to put a lens on or a filter was like big news to me, you know. So I just wanted to get my hands dirty and fuck up as much as I could, even though I didn't know how to articulate it or understand it. It's like, oh, you're learning right now. I just wanted to try, and then the other side of it was I got to be in LA, so I got to learn about LA. I got to sneak into parties and stuff and rub elbows with real filmmakers, and I had to do I had to go through that time where it was like, oh man, I wanted to be a filmmaker, but I hadn't been, I wasn't I was a film student, so that was always like that tough pill to swallow. But it was nice to, once I got out of film school, I was like, all right, I don't have to say I'm a film student anymore. Like now I'm just a filmmaker, you know what I'm saying? So once I kind of adopted that mindset, which is very, I think that comes from like the Robert Rodriguez Rebel Without a Crew book, it's like you kind of have to just think like, oh, I'm a filmmaker, and then prove that, So that was where it all kind of came through, because as soon as I got out of film school, I got that same, I was 20, I think, when I got out of film school, 20 or 21, and I just knew I had that feeling that I had when I got out of high school, where I was like, fuck, what am I doing with my life?
How did you do grade-wise, like, in high school?
I was okay in school, but it was a twofold kind of issue. The first one, I didn't apply myself very much in school, and I was kind of a B student. I did this really weird thing. Before junior high, our 9th grade, your freshman year of high school, is still considered junior high. Mm-hmm. So I basically failed all the way up until 9th grade when it started counting, and then I was like, oh, this is going to my college thing, so I better try. Yeah. And so I got decent grades, you know, and but when I tore my Achilles tendon my senior year of high school, you know, I was playing basketball. If I was going to go to college, I was going to play sports, because there's no way I could just go sit in a classroom. Like, I would die, you know? And so once the ankle happened, once everything, it again went to like, oh, I'm not doing this anymore. Like, I took a couple of college writing courses in my senior year of high school to like start getting the credits, and because I was interested in writing and things like that. But I hated it. Like, I just couldn't deal with it. I got along with the teacher. I liked that the teacher treated me like an adult, you know, and that was really big. But I never applied myself in school. And then the other side of that issue was I was an athlete. And the school that I went to, they're really great people, but we had some old-timey traditions of like, oh, athletes get a pass. Sure. You know what I'm saying?
So, I know exactly where that world is.
So I ran into that a lot. But ironically, that kind of, I don't want to say it hindered me, but it actually presented a challenge when I first moved to LA, because a lot of artists, and especially, you know, super intellectual people, they're not always athletes, you know, and they're not always kind of, you know, raised by that culture. So there's a dynamic of sensitivities and things that I really had to kind of adjust to when I first moved here.
You were the oldest, right?
I'm the oldest in my family. Yeah. I got
just one sister?
Sister, yeah.
It's interesting because I, like in high school, like, okay, it's like, oh, going to high school, like these grades count, right? So it's like I tried really hard, you know, and then just like as the years progressed, and because not only was I like athlete could do that, but I also followed, like my brother was 5 years ahead of me, like same, you know what I mean? So I was like, I can't lose, you know what I mean? And once I learned like I can literally fuck off and sleep 5 out of 6 classes and still get C pluses. You know, and my parents aren't like, you know, yelling at me for it or whatever. So I'm like, all right, fuck it.
We had this foreign exchange student from France who would always talk about kind of the specialized schools for kids over there. Like, you know, there were, you know, violin prodigies and stuff. And I always remember being a kid and I'm like, why the hell didn't someone decide I was supposed to be a prodigy or something? Like, here I am in normal public school.
Or like high school, they would do like a thesis. And I remember like a friend, like in Art Institute, he was from France. And he's like, my high school thesis, I'd like make a movie. And I was like, what? Like, and you got graded? Like, that was your final grade? And he's like, well, you know, I was in the film school program at high school. And I was like, we had this shitty video production thing, you know.
I took like one semester of our, it was called East Lab. And I took one semester of it. And I couldn't figure out Photoshop. Like, I was terrible in the audio video stuff at our school. And looking back, I wish I would have, like, I was totally that asshole basketball player who was like theater nerds and, you know, but it was one of those things where it was like, again, I really think your nurturing, your upbringing has a lot to do with that, like where your cultural environment kind of pushes you towards, you know. So I always thought as a kid, I was like, oh, someone deems you a prodigy and they treat you like that. And I was like, oh, we're poor, so I'm just not going to be a prodigy. And I just kind of always had that mindset, except for sports, because I was decent at sports. So I tried to think, like, can I fake my way into taking the confidence I have as an athlete and slipping it into movies? Because I knew the only thing I liked as much as basketball were movies, you know? So it was literally like, oh, if I can't play basketball for the rest of my life, I'll be an actor, or I'll be a writer, whatever that is, you know, because I had no idea what a
and nobody does in that town, you know what I mean, like anywhere,
every time I said I was moving to LA, people were like, oh, Lower Arkansas? And I was like, that's a terrible joke, or Louisiana. So, you know, you got those really bad jokes. So there was a lot of pressure to make something happen.
I've thought about this. So my freshman year in high school, I took drama. Because I was interested in film, and I was like, I'll take it. It's an easy, you know, thing. But I was like super heavy jock. And my drama teacher loved me. I did like this improv thing, and I was like the youngest. You know, there's all these seniors and juniors, and I was just like skinny little freshman doing a, you know, it's like Whose Line Is It Anyway type thing. Improv. So it was like a Friday night, and half the school shows up, you know, and that was cool. And she desperately wanted me to be the lead in like the screenplay.
That's cool.
It was like, you have to do this. Like, you're so good, you're just naturally. And I was like, I got fucking football. You know what I mean? Like, sports. in hindsight, looking back, I
wish you would have done it.
Desperate.
Yeah.
I would have written off all
go back in
sports and
time right
everything,
now, yeah.
and just I would have hit that so fucking hard.
Yeah, it's one of those things when you look back on it, because I had a similar circumstance where in like 4th or 5th grade, one of the really, really smart kids in class, like one of those kids that I was intimidated by because he was kind of the teacher's pet, always got great grades, and he came up to me one time and was like, I'm doing this thing for the talent show, and I'd really like for you to be part of it, because I was a little bit of a class clown. And so he was like, I think you've got enough energy and enough personality to do this. And when we did it, we ended up getting like in the newspaper, and like, so anytime I was able to like show out for a good reason, it ended up getting attention. So that's why I initially I was like, oh, maybe I'll be an actor, or maybe I'll write stuff that other people act in. So
I thought it was going to be Schwarzenegger, dude.
Oh, really?
Oh.
I think every kid wants to be Schwarzenegger.
Dude,
you know?
I can show you like a short film we did at Art Institute, and it's like this time travel, whatever, but like I go into this other world, and it's like, beasts and monsters like in the woods, and
that's awesome.
I'm like, there's this one part where I'm like, running from whatever, but we get the car on the road, and I'm like running, sprinting, and it's like so badass,
that's
awesome. And then I like jump
off
off into this river, and
that's cool.
That was like my goal. Like,
that's awesome. I mean,
I still would love to.
Yeah. I mean, there's no reason not to, and I think it's one of those things.
I just realized acting's really hard.
It is. It's really tough. It takes a massive commitment, and I think especially as a film student, I feel bad because you don't respect actors because you don't know what they're capable of.
You just think I need a pretty face.
Yeah, and they're very disposable. It's like they're just bodies in your scene, and it's like
growing up, like if you're doing anything, it's like, oh, I just put my buddies in.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Yeah. So you just don't. But I think the buddy thing actually works because I think it gets you comfortable with being on set and knowing what you're doing, because like there's also the flip side for actors that intimidate you on set, and but there is kind of this weird. Let's just throw everything in and figure it out. And I liked that part of filmmaking, and I liked that it was a collaborative thing, but that was very foreign to me because the only team stuff I had really worked on was sports. Like we did this thing, we had GT, which was Gifted and Talented. And I was never in those things. I was never invited to them, and I thought it was because we didn't have money. My mom was always like, "Oh, it's the rich kid stuff." So I got asked to be in it one time, and we were doing this like. Again, like, no one ever sat me down and explained the rules of what we were supposed to do. Maybe they did, and I just didn't pay attention. Right. I had, like, tons of ADD and OCD, and so I was just always zoned out as a kid. And so, like, I remember we were doing, like, this play where we had to make, like, flamingos out of umbrellas or something, and it was, like, a whole thing. And I just kind of didn't even participate. And that was kind of my whole childhood. Like, my parents were never really involved. Like, we would start it, we'd never finish it. So I really didn't want film to be that thing for me, that I started and didn't finish. So my parents were
How many projects or people have you met along now since then that are like, I'm going to do this, or I'm going to start this. And it's like, so all right, let's really see if you fucking...
Yeah, that was really important to me. Like, I coming, and again, the Arkansas thing, I think coming into LA, I met a lot of people who had a lot to say, which was fine, and I was excited about that, but I noticed a lot of people wanted to do things that they weren't, and I was like, okay, even if it's not the way I want it to be, I need to see it through. I need to make it happen, and you can always learn from, what happened. So, but at the same time, Hollywood is very, like, judgy, so, you have to be careful, but I didn't understand that going out, so as soon as I got out of film school, it was like, let's just go make whatever the hell we can, and that's how Hostile Encounter came around.
So that's never been released. Is it finished?
Yeah, I mean, we screened it at a film festival actually because we
it's like My Black.
Yeah. Well,
like written, produced, like finished film. Whatever.
I think most filmmakers have one. Tarantino's got my best friend's birthday. Like a lot of filmmakers have like that one thing that they tried starting on, and they were like, "This isn't it."
But you finished it.
Yeah, I mean, you can watch it. Like, we never did sound design on it. We never mixed it. But ironically, it played at a festival because we were trying, my producers and I, Ace Morero and Daniel Dunn, we were trying to get IMDb credits at the time because we wanted to be real deals. Yep. We wanted to have IMDb credits, and it was like 2010. And I had graduated film school in like 2009 or 2008. So it was 2010. We shot this thing, tried to get our credits. And by 2011, we were in pre-production on Madison County because, it was like, okay, this isn't going to be the one. let's do like a legitimate horror movie in a market that's more established.
So how'd that come about? How'd that happen? Somebody.
It was almost by accident. It was a matter of like looking at Hostile Encounter and being quite proud of it. Like that's what's so bizarre is like we were so proud of it we didn't release it, but it inspired us to be like, oh man, maybe we can make a movie. Because the weird thing about Hostile Encounter was it was a found footage movie.
Oh really?
Yeah.
Interesting.
It's almost like Deliverance as a found footage movie.
Interesting.
But the first part of it is like this melodrama. Girlfriend breaks up with a guy and leaves him a Dear John letter on this camera that he's obsessed with, and so he takes it on this road trip to rediscover himself, and it's quite, like I said, melodramatic and poetic, but it also turns really dark when you get to the South and meet these hillbillies.
Right. So it's like a Hills Have Eyes type.
Yeah. But less monstery, just more very real, very like we even considered like maybe trying to do like a Blair Witch, like let's try and see if we can make it real, but.
When I originally was going to do evidence, it was going to be that. I was like, I was going to plan everything out and literally just put them in it and have all these different things happen and them capture on camera.
I think everyone wants to capture that Blair Witch, like lightning in a bottle, like can I trick the world?
But even Blair Witch was so planned out. I mean, you know what I mean? Like when you really, and
you really have to kind of, you can only do so many tricks so many times. So it was one of those things where I was like, look, this is good for what it is, and it's good enough to show that I can film something for over an hour and tell a cohesive story. And especially the big thing for me was, can I do it with no coverage, with no, I took the found footage format and actually made it quite cinematic, I thought. But so that
I really liked it. I didn't know you did it.
Yeah. So it was
there's so many horrible ones. Like
and mine's one of them, but it's more like it's not a horror movie. You know what I'm saying? And that was the thing, was it was more of like a weird drama thriller, which seems to be something I do. But it's it's one of those things where I was like I want to do something that's a little bit more darker and horror than this, and that's where Madison County kind of came about. And I still didn't go horror with that because like I've always I don't know, like it's weird. I'm not like a horror. Like I don't dress like Marilyn Manson, you know what I'm saying? But at the same time, like when I got to film school, they were like, all you talk about are horror movies, all you want to do, like all my projects had a dark turn to them. So I was labeled the horror guy, and I think ever since the beginning, I was kind of, I don't want to say rejecting that, but I was just like the horror guy and everything else. Like I want to do comedy, I want to do this. And
my least favorite thing is people ask, what kind of scripts do you write? What kind of movies do you write? Good ones. That's what I always say. It's like I can't put them in a genre like dark, like violent. I don't know. Like
it's just the way our brains are wired. We're so
not romantic comedies.
We just judge and label everything. It's like a certain genre means a quality to us for some reason. But I just wanted to fight that stigma because I knew for me, I'll die a happy man if I only make horror movies for the rest of my life. It's no biggie to me. But at the same time, if I could, I wanted to take chances and do other things, and so I just really wanted to make sure that I didn't close any doors before they had the opportunity to open. So that was kind of where all of it came from, was like looking at Hostile Encounter and saying, this isn't the one, but it was strong enough for us to look at it and say, like, let's give it one more shot with a little more money, because like Hostile Encounter was all on me, it was all my money. And I gave us a budget, and I said, we're going to spend this and do this. And we brought it in, and it was just like, oh, man, we did that. You know, we didn't change the world, but we did what we said we were going to do. And we were like, maybe if we try a little harder, like, we'll be able to do something that we could sell. And we were able to do that. So
was Madison County that?
Yeah.
I mean, that kind of like...
Yeah, that was the first one that we shot. We released a teaser poster. We had... Fangoria magazine and Bloody Disgusting, and all the horror sites come down and visit the set. Like, we just really kind of had a goal in mind with it and had kind of a plan.
Where'd you guys sell it at?
We sold it. Yeah, we didn't sell it anywhere. We kind of just sold it because the first, ironically,
how did you just like start cold calling? Because I took both mine to like AFM.
Yeah, it was a little bit of both. So we got handed to because our effects guy Rob Hall had done a bunch of big horror movies in Hollywood, so he knew a few people, and he's also a director himself. So he turned us on to a couple of companies, and ironically, Mark Ward, who used to be at Anchor Bay, moved to Image, and he was the first person to watch it and was like, I dig it, but we had pie in the sky dreams, and we're like, sure. We just got into Scream Fest, and that's where Paranormal Activity.
You guys thought you were going to be the next. Yeah.
Well, we just wanted to see. It's like you naively you're like, oh, we could be the next Texas Chainsaw Massacre, but in reality you're just like, oh, we want to see where it can go. And so we skimped out on a few things. We took our time longer than you ever should, and thankfully Mark was a homie and was still there when we came back, and we were like, hey man, we've always liked you, but we just kind of had to see what was out there. It's our first time. So we sold the movie to him. We had no sales agent, and we wanted to do that.
That's good.
We wanted to make our own mistakes. We were like, we knew everyone would take advantage of us, so it was like, well, we know we can get taken advantage of very easily, so how do we make our own mistakes without getting taken advantage of?
The cool thing is that you had other people there with you, and you still work with the same guys, right?
Yeah. I don't work with this exact same guys, right. But I was working with essentially my roommates and my buddies. It was all people I had gone to film school with, or people I had met on auditions, and then we just kind of all in a weird way cohabitated together. Sometimes we were literally living with each other and making movies and editing upstairs. So it was just like a very, hey, let's all make this work and try to figure it out. And I was fortunate to have all those people around me. At the same time, I had to constantly be the one who was like writing the material, and producing and creating a lot of the content. So there was Ace, who was one of the producers. He was key in really the marketing side. Daniel was really kind of taking care of the business end, so I was able to really kind of focus on creating. So we had a nice little thing going for sure. So we just had no idea what we were doing.
Right, yeah. So how long after Madison County was contracted?
Not long, actually. I want to say.
And did that come because of Madison County, or did you guys just all say,
remember,
like, hey,
Roadside was shot second.
Oh, right. Yeah, that's right.
So we, I think 6 months after wrapping Madison County, we were on set shooting Roadside. So, before anyone really... Well, people knew what Madison County was because a trailer had dropped. So we cut our own trailer.
Great poster and image.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah. So
all your posters, actually, I was thinking about on the drive here. They're good.
Thank you. I fight tooth and nail to try and get control of the posters, and I've only got... Contracted's the only one that I've had, full control over.
Get the Girls. Awesome.
Really? The blue one?
With the cartoon?
The black one? Oh, that one. Yeah. That one's cool. Thank you.
Yeah.
That was our indie one that the distributor wouldn't do. But thank you for that. I appreciate that. I fight those. The ones I commission, I'm always proud of. But then the distributor puts whatever the hell they want on. But yeah. So we kind of just approached it from what movies do we like? What are we good at? And kind of divide and conquer. But. When that happened, we released some marketing material to generate some buzz on Madison County, because we had a twofold plan. The first part was sell our movie, hopefully build a following, or at least some kind of awareness of what we were trying to do with Madison County. And the other side was try to make this a thing. How do we make this our day job, or how do we, for me, I wasn't even thinking about day job, because I'm kind of a hippie, and I'm like, fuck the man, and let's just go make movies. And so I was like, how do we just get into the next movie? How do we just start telling the next story? And there's a naivete to that's like, oh, stupid, don't do that. But then there's also
also that thing just fucking go do it.
Do it. But again, it's now with a little bit more time you can plan a little better. But it really was just about how do we keep making movies? Because I knew as soon as we stopped making movies, it was gonna be it was almost like we were in a club that we weren't supposed to be in. As long as we were dancing, no one was gonna tap us on the shoulder, And that's kind of how I felt. And so we just kept dancing. We just kept making movies. So we shot Roadside, and we shot Madison County in October of 2010, and we dropped a trailer in March of 2011. By April of 2011, we were on set shooting Roadside. And then by June of 2012, the next year, Madison County had just come out on DVD. Roadside was finished and just had premiered at a festival, and I was getting ready to shoot. I just finished writing Contracted, so we shot June of 2012. So it was just one after the other.
And then what prevented Roadside from not coming out before?
It was a couple things. I mean, the production was really, really, really hard. We had a crew situation. We had to let someone go, unfortunately, and you know, tensions got weird on set, and we were under scheduled. It was like a 13 or 14 day shoot because naively, you know,
you guys are all one. I haven't seen it, but it's all like pretty much one location, right?
It's all on the side of the road, and that was we were kind of naively like, oh, it's easier that way, you know, and it's all at night, it's all in this snow
like
and weather,
people,
yeah.
You know,
So ironically, it was more of like a Hitchcockian undertaking, like Rope, and I didn't realize that like, oh, that makes it harder, you know, and so again, just a learning process. So it just got delayed because we ended up having the weather. We were hoping it was going to be wet and we could make the snow look kind of slushy, but we showed up and there was like pollen on our car and like it was turning into summer.
Yeah.
And so we had to do a lot of visual effects and we had no budget for, and Beg, Borrow, and Steal, a guy in Arkansas, did our visual effects for us. Les Galucci, he's incredible. You know, so it was just a time constraint of like, and honestly, I was over bogged down because again, I was trying to continue making movies, and I made Contracted with a completely different team. So it was just kind of bogged down. You know, Daniel took over some of the editing for a little bit because he had some more commercial sensibilities.
Did you edit a lot of the earlier stuff?
No, I don't have the temperament to edit. So I obviously I sit in and do the directing side of editing, but no, I'm not. I can't sit there and cut, and I'll drive myself insane.
I edit really quickly.
Yeah,
and then I'm like, cool. Good.
I wish I could. I still have trouble. Sometimes I kind of mock up design my own posters, and I'll do, you know, mood boards and things like that. But like I'm not really good with kind of the sewing and stitching together things. I have to kind of stand back and say like, I see what it's gonna be. You know what I'm saying? Yeah.
No, I'm like that. Like I'm not great at any of it, but I can do it. Like I can quickly put together a Photoshop image. Like this is kind of what now get a professional that knows the proper DPI and all that shit.
I kind of subscribe to that David Fincher way of thinking, which is like I know how to do the job, and if I really put my attention to it, I could probably be good at it, but it's just like there's not enough time, and honestly, you spread yourself thin sometimes, and for me, I just know I'm not good at the job, you know. So it's like I envy people who can write, direct, edit, DP, like do all those things. Like I'm colorblind, so I can't DP. It's also partially why I don't edit. You know, I just.
That's interesting. How is that? What's the? I know you've said it before, but what's the? Because I know there's different.
Types. I'm red, blue, green. I'm red, blue, and green, blue. Colorblind, so it's mainly on.
So like
that
your
side
shirt right now, you see.
I can't even. I know there's different colors in it, but I can't tell. It's just blue.
Yeah.
Blue or purple. But it's it basically just makes things blur together for me. It's hard for me to tell really distinct differences from things like, and it really just depends on kind of the conditions that the color is in. Depends on the lighting, depends on the shading. Because like I've actually had trouble with like stoplights and stuff, like a red and a green, but they're very different, you know.
Right.
But I sometimes in the
wrong lighting. FYI, the red's on the top, green's on the bottom.
No, I'm a safe driver. But yeah, it definitely. I actually color corrected the first Madison County trailer before it came out, and it looked like a David Fincher, Steven Soderbergh like green. It was very bizarre. And everyone was like, is this like a style you're going for? Is this like a look you want?
No, I think it looks perfect.
Yeah, and I did. I was like, I think it looks cool. And everyone else was kind of like, what the fuck is this guy thinking? So yeah, I had to really kind of trust DPs. But I speak in terms of color. So I'm like, all right, we want it to be warm and sensual, you know. So I'll try to use that as much as possible to keep everybody in sync.
So Contracted, I know, is on paper your most popular movie, right? After that, you did Get the Girl, which was probably, and we've talked about this a little bit before, but probably Get the Girl is not a horror movie.
No.
Not even close.
No,
right?
It's a really twisted, dark comedy.
Right. So how did you have to fight for that? Did you, I mean, again, it sounds like you guys were kind of in control mostly, but like when you're like, all right, hey, yeah, I just crushed this horror movie. I'm gonna do a dark comedy.
Yeah, it was about as like tense as you would expect. Like it kind of almost happened again by accident, where I was chasing. I just gotten an agent after Contracted. I got a new manager after Contracted. I was talking to a lot of cool producers. I was up to direct a couple of like Blumhouse movies and studio things, and there were a lot of cool projects coming across, a lot of things I was excited to do, and I was writing a few things. But at the same time, and again, this is where a lot of it came from, because Contracted became really popular as the really inexpensive movie that made a good chunk of money, which again, we didn't do Blair Witch or Paranormal Activity numbers, but like we did well. So it was one of those things where everyone was like, hey, do you want to do another one of those really cheap movies?
Right.
And I was like, no, like unless you're going to guarantee me that I can own a chunk, a massive chunk, of which no one wants to do. They just wanted me to make another like $50,000 movie, and that was terrifying.
What was the budget on Contracted?
It's $50,000.
$50,000. That's incredible, by the way.
Thanks.
That's incredible.
Yeah, I mean, look, a lot. It was like slave labor,
Oh, of course,
for myself included. So it was just.
I would have posted that honestly. I mean, it looks like $1 million.
Thank you.
One,
well, I mean, look,
you somewhere in there.
You want to let people know the price tag right away and be like, look at what we did,
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, it goes to Netflix or Redbox, and you're next to the Michael Bay movie of the week, and people don't care. So when all of that was happening, it was exciting.
So they don't have any
Scary.
expectation. Like the normal audience isn't like, guys, this movie was made for $50,000. Let's watch it.
They have no idea.
It's like, oh, that's a cool poster.
Yeah, does this grab my attention? Does it hook me? And
not able to look at it and be like, these motherfuckers made $50,000.
Yeah,
me?
exactly. So most of the meetings, in a weird way, it was a little insulting. The majority of my career after the success of Contracted was almost like a circus sideshow. Like I would just go into these meetings and people were like, did you really do that for $50,000? Like I had so many people say, hey, if you decide to do that again, you give me a call. And I'm like, what the hell does that mean?
Did people tell you not to tell the price? Say it was $500,000?
Sometimes, yes and no. I mean, I told, like, my agent didn't really care, but that was the thing, is like, I was proud of it, but at the same time, like, it's not, it was more like, look at what I could do if you gave me something, you know what I'm saying? And
that's how I thought. We got evidence in the can for less than $12,000.
Yeah.
And we have a fucking helicopter at the end.
Exactly.
Like an actual helicopter.
Yeah.
People, like, to this day are like, oh, you didn't CG green screen that? And I was like, no, it's fucking Ashley's leg sitting out of a helicopter, And like I was super proud of that, and then people are like, "Don't say how much you made it for. Say it was $100,000." And I'm like, "Why?"
Yeah,
like that should be like the precipice of like.
Yeah, but it's not, and they want you to keep it quiet, and it is what it is. So, whenever I would go into these rooms, that was the topic of conversation, was just how cheap the movie was. What do you want to do next? And I kid you not, I would always get asked this. They were like, "Why do you need so much money now?" And I was like, what the hell does that mean? So it was like, we didn't have enough money the first time. Like, we got really lucky. And so, it was one of those things where, the kid in me is like, all right, if I needed to do that again, I could. But even now I look back and I'm like, there's no way I would think like, oh, I could pull that movie off again. Like, you have to be kind of dumb and not know that you're going to fail. So it's it was one of those things where it was really tough to kind of shake that. And a lot of people were like, hey, do another zombie movie. I was getting sent a ton of zombie movies. I was getting sent a ton of...
I wasn't going to give anybody that hasn't seen
spoiler.
Contracted,
but
by the way, that was because it's such... I'll just take a tangent real quick.
Yeah.
And I've said this to you before. If you haven't seen Contracted, by the way, it's funny, like I work with a bunch of like kids that like haven't, they're like their knowledge of movies aren't like, so go watch Contracted. I'll put a link in the IMDb and everything like that.
Yeah.
But it's such a slow burn.
Yeah.
It's such a fucking slow burn that almost like I wonder, so I wonder if like when you were writing that, like you always like, oh, I'm really gonna like hold on to this, or was it something like in the editing process of like, you know what, I think we can really continue to stretch the audience and then cap it with, so it ends and then it ends.
Yeah.
Right? It ends small.
Yeah.
Like and then
It ends big.
And then it ends big, and I was like, fucking loved it.
Yeah.
Loved it.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
Did you, like, was that always kind of your goal, or did that just kind of come about through...
It was always the goal, at least for the ending. Ironically, the ending was probably the most stressful part of the movie, because on paper it was easy to write, car crashes,
right,
and
mayhem ensues.
Keep going, yeah. And when you have to figure out how to shoot that with no money, that was the scary part. So we almost actually didn't even shoot it, because the producers were like, "There's no way in hell you can do this." So
was there like CG in the end?
No. There's only one CG element in the entire movie, and that's smoke coming off of the hood from the car. But it was one of those things where I convinced them to let me shoot the final scene in one take. And when I did that, they were like, "Okay, we'll give it a go." So the whole ending had to be done in one take, or I couldn't do it. So I knew that there was going to be an ending to the story, but then I was like, "But the idea is not done yet."
Yeah.
And that's and when I realized that, I was like, "Oh man, this is where this could be really cool," because I knew there was always going to be an extra reveal at the end. I just didn't know what it was going to be. And so it was one of those things, when it all clicked, it clicked really well. And I was like, okay, this will be cool. Like, if nothing else, I thought it would be a fun, like, little gimmick. I didn't realize it was going to be like, oh my gosh! Yeah. And ironically, the movie was spoiled for a lot of people, because in certain countries it's marketed as,
right,
a zombie movie. But it's, I showed it at USC before it came out, and all the students on the pamphlet, it said, zombie movie. And so I asked the audience, I was like, you guys knew this coming in? Because I was like, hopefully no one sees the twist coming. And someone like held up their pamphlet, and they were like, it said it right here.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh shit. And they were like, no, we still enjoyed the movie. It's actually kind of cool to like watch it unfold and see how it was going to get there. And I was like, oh, okay. So it's got like a double enjoyment aspect, which was I didn't expect. So that wasn't planned.
I had no idea going into it. I just heard some douchebag on the radio. I was like, I gotta see this motherfucker's movie, and I was like, oh, it's fucking good. Yeah,
it's really unique, because I think foreign audiences, I get a lot of foreign fans who say like, your movie is like the original like Night of the Living Dead. It's even further back. And I was like, I'm glad you pick up on that, because that's kind of what I was going for.
When I gotta ask, It Follows came out. Thoughts, reactions, it's very good. It's a very good film. It's just I'm like, so you just did the same thing.
It is what it is. I mean, there were a couple of. I mean, look,
and obviously they had way more money.
Yeah, they had more money, and I like that movie. I think it's really good. Yeah. But it's it's interesting, because I think even when Contracted was coming out, there's a really talented French Canadian filmmaker named Eric as well. I forgot, I would butcher his last name if I tried to say it, but he made a really cool horror movie called Amorphous, and it's a movie about a girl rotting away after a sexual encounter. And again, like, he was in Canada, like, we hadn't even met, and we went to a film festival together, and they double programmed our movies back to back.
And you're like, awesome.
Yeah, and I was like, what? And it was just funny, because his movie actually came out a little before mine, so a lot of people thought my movie was like a remake of his or a ripoff. So there were all kinds of weird connections to that. And then there was Starry Eyes got brought into the conversation for some of the like body horror stuff, and and it was like what I was trying to do.
Maybe some aspects of you mentioned earlier, Eli Roth's Cabin Fever.
Cabin
you know what I mean? Like,
huge inspiration.
Yeah.
So I mean, there were definitely things that were inspiring and things that I was trying to pay homage to. But it's one of those things where it's like, I think amongst the horror filmmakers, I think we're all kind of clamoring. I tend to believe the David Lynch school of thought, where it's like these ideas are just out there. It's like nothing is wholly original, because we're all walking around being affected by advertisements, and it's like you're never really pure enough to have your own thoughts. So it's like you're being influenced everywhere you go. So it's just a matter of when those dots connect in a way that makes sense for you. So like, I mean, when I saw It Follows, to be honest with you, I was just like, fuck, I kind of wish I would have thought about that, And because I like my movie, and I'm proud of the idea, but there's nothing scarier than your imagination,
Right.
And that's what It Follows really uses to its advantage. So in a weird way, I almost see like Contracted, it's not like this, the Human Centipede or something, but it's kind of like the dirty cousin of It Follows.
Right, yeah. Can we talk about the sequel at all?
Yeah.
I've never seen it.
Yeah. You should, it's fine.
Yeah, I know there was two different directions, right? You wanted to take the story one way.
Yeah.
Well,
there wasn't really two different directions. It was just a classic, Kansas City shuffle Hollywood deal where, I didn't want to do a sequel at first. I was kind of against it for all the reasons I said before. I just didn't want to do a cheap horror movie again. I was like, if we're going to do a horror movie, let's do a studio movie, or let's try to do something bigger. And no one wanted to do that. And so when I went to go do Get the Girl, I almost used that as kind of leverage, like, guys, I'm going to go do something different for just a minute. And that, that project, that process, it was kind of a weird, wild hair. We didn't have everything we needed, a little underbaked. So looking back, I wish I would have done Contracted too. I'm glad I made Get the Girl because it was a great learning experience, but it was, with Contracted 2, I was just honestly kind of felt disrespected by the offer that was made. It was, it was just very like, hey, let's do this cheap again, and having
like you've done it before, doing
well, not only that, but like knowing that we did the first movie so cheap and it was such a laborious kind of task for everyone. We had fun making it, but I felt bad that no one could get paid very well. Yeah. And and that's just the tragedy of all indie films. So going into a sequel, I was like, all right, I'm pretty sure the distributor was paying for it. And I was like, I know that the first movie was making money. I was like, let's not be cheap and phone it in just for the sake of it. And especially if I was going to direct, I was like, guys, if we're going to do this, we're going to do this right. Like, we're going to do Aliens, not,
I was wondering, I was like, is that where your mind was?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I was like, look, we don't need to Terminator $200 million, but the goal would be to make this better,
different.
And different, and different. And so I started putting together the pieces. I started writing the screenplay, for free, in good faith, and then when they came to me and they were like, hey, we're going to lower the budget and we're going to do this, I was like, I don't want to do that, so I'll just write it and I'll produce it and I'll get a new director. So I brought Matt Mercer to direct, who helped me produce the first one and was one of the actors. He had just finished directing his first movie, directed some shorts, and I think he's really talented. So let's keep it in the family. And they came back and they were like, we don't want to pay you for writing, we don't want to pay you for producing. Like, we just want to give you, basically what you're entitled to already. Right. And they presented it to me as like, here's what we will offer you. And I'm like, guys, I get that contractually already. So you're not doing me any favors. So it was very insulting. And so I kind of just said, you know what, go with God. If you want to make a movie, go nuts. I wanted them to keep Matt. I think Matt stepped away out of respect, which was nice. He still starred in the movie, but he kind of just treated it like a job, and a lot of people did. They got a lot of crew and stuff to return back because people got to eat. But it was one of those weird things where it was kind of like a breakup or a divorce. Where
did
like,
you
there was a separation.
Show up on set?
Oh no, I had nothing to do. So I and some of this was like my ego, and as I said, I kind of regret some of this. But like I think it was day 3 of shooting Get the Girl. I got a phone call from Paradigm, I think, the agency, and they called and they said, hey, we just got sent the screenplay for Contracted 2, and we're going to send you talent. And I was like, guys, I'm not doing that. And they were like, we have a screenplay right here that has like your name on it. So I think the script was going around with like story by Eric England, or created with characters by Eric England, and I think I was still listed as like an EP or something. But I was being told that it was being introduced as like Eric England's involved, and so I had to call the producers and say, look, I don't even want a special thanks on this thing. Like,
that's actually, to be honest, because I'd known you by then, I would read the trades and I'm seeing what's going on and stuff like that. I actually think that's a very strong like example of like your character. Yeah. To like, you could have very easily tapped your name on it, not direct, but still gotten something or whatever, still like, and instead you completely.
Well, I mean, look,
like, look, guys, it's not going to be,
I still paid my bills off of it. Like, I got a check, which is nice, but I honestly,
But now you can look at it as like, like it's not much. You know what I mean? It could have been a piece of shit or the biggest thing ever. It doesn't matter because I wasn't involved.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm okay with that.
And I certainly didn't want to be like, send me the cut and I'll decide if I want my name on it. I just wanted to make a very firm stance. Like, you guys make your movie and I'm going to get paid whether you make it or not. You know? So it's a very John Carpenter kind of like, go do what you want to do. Like,
no, it's a good move though.
I
mean, for
appreciate it.
whatever,
Yeah. It's one of those things, man. It's tough because so much of what you do in this industry is under a microscope, and people judge everything, and
people also aren't looking long term. Everybody's
also
like
not
right
there.
now.
How privileged to be able to just judge someone, you know? But
right.
But it's one of those things where, you know, looking back, I think the director they got, he did a fine job. He's a music video director. He does very, very good music videos, and the writer they got is you know, has built a little work. You know, he's a working class writer, and he's doing very well for himself, I think. And you know, I think for what that movie was, it feels very much almost like the Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2. It's tonally different. It's, you know, it just feels like a completely different thing. So.
Is it like Aliens? Like,
No.
do they no?
Well,
do they just rinse, wash, repeat, try to do the same?
Pretty much, yeah. They kind of just did that with Matt Mercer's character, and
because the ending of like that, the big reveal, like as soon as that hit, I was like, I want to watch that.
Yeah.
Like that's
exactly.
opening scene for the next one.
And they did. They used his opening scene. Like they used a lot of the stuff I was gonna do with it. But you know, at the end of the day, ironically, I was gonna have a helicopter at the end of Contracted 2. Like it was gonna be this whole thing. It was gonna be a bigger movie for sure. But it was gonna be a little bit more ambitious. It was gonna be It was gonna be way tonally more serious, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And they really went for more comedy, I think, and kind of slapsticky. Like it's gross. It's a gross movie. It's kind of melodramatic and more so than mine. But yeah, like I said, it's a fine movie. It's worth a watch. I you know, people who don't follow film intensely, like I think a lot of people had a bias towards it because they knew I didn't have.
That's literally why I haven't watched it. I'm like, fuck those guys.
Yeah, I appreciate that. But you know, like I said, it's a piece of art. People worked hard on it. It has the same DP. There's a lot of talented people involved. You know, so there's a lot of really good elements about it. So yeah, I just wish they wouldn't have fucked it up so much that now there can't be a Contracted 3. You know, it's like they kind of screwed the pooch. So you know, I wish the franchise could continue, but.
So, okay, that brings us up to Josie.
Yeah.
Which came out last year.
No, it came out March this year.
March this year?
Yeah.
Okay. Josie, I'm going to guess your biggest budgeted film.
Yeah.
Also working with some real talent. Not that the other ones weren't, but
just famous.
Yeah, Dylan
McDermott.
I forget the chick's name. From
Sophie Turner. Yeah.
Sophie Turner from Game of Thrones? Right?
Yeah.
Let's talk. Let's talk about that for a second. First of all, I'll go on my little thing about it. Again, you know, to compliment you, I think Josie actually is and because you have the budget for it, there's very little handheld. You're on the sticks. You're moving. But if for you youngsters out there that you know, are interested in filmmaking, I use your films a lot. But Josie is a prime example of it as like an example of like what people say. What does a director do?
Yeah.
You know, it's like, oh, they're their lead. You know, whatever. Especially if you're a writer as well. Like, oh, it's just his story. But it's like, no. Like, watch how the camera moves, when the camera moves, and if it even does move. If you just pay attention to that, watching the entire thing of Josie, that's what a director's job is. In terms of like, you know, like kind of overall of like, oh, why isn't he moving the camera? Well, because he wants you to keep watching here. Oh, and then he'll move it, 30 seconds afterward to pan. You know, it's just like, so well done on that.
Thank you, man. I appreciate that.
Talk to me about bigger budget. I know last time we met you were like, it started at this and all of a sudden exploded. So you know, for the youngsters out there, how did that come, and how the budget all of a sudden getting bigger, and what were you like, oh shit, or were you like, this is great?
Both. It's always a kind of dual experience, you know, because it's every movie is new. You're always nervous, like it's the first day of school. So the process of getting Josie was called Huntsville originally. It was a blacklist screenplay. Everyone in Hollywood had read it. It was a very Hollywood process. You know, it was my agent sent me a screenplay and was like, "Hey, you're this up-and-coming horror director, and everyone is looking to see what you're interested in doing, and you're going away from horror. So we found this kind of dramatic. It was really a drama,
thriller.
Yeah. It gets dark, but I never saw it as a thriller. And when I met with the writer, we kind of clicked on that. We really wanted to try and make like a Jeff Nichols kind of. Movie, which we didn't get to shoot in the South, so we didn't get to accomplish that, but we wanted to try and make something that felt very timeless, and something that, like, it didn't matter.
You don't know if it's set in the 80s.
Yeah, it's just a good story, I always thought. It's a very simple story. The movie reminds me of movies like, or at least the story reminded me of Sling Blade, and it reminded me of like American Beauty, and there are just shades of all these beautiful movies that I've loved throughout cinema, especially recently. So we kind of tapped into that. I was able to get Zoe White, who's an incredible cinematographer. She's now shooting The Handmaid's Tale. She's part of the ASC in Australia. Like, she's probably gonna win a Golden Globe or an Emmy soon.
Yeah.
And it was all thanks to the material. Like, we had great material. We had a great writer. We had some really enthusiastic and ambitious young producers who had never made a movie before, and they were a development company. They were developing a lot of material and selling it to studios and stuff, and they really wanted to take on production in a new movie. And they, I'm always again. I get a lot of phone calls from a lot of new companies, a lot of producers who just started a company or something, and they're like, look, we want a filmmaker who can like just go out there and break ground, and like just go get one in the can for us and start getting it going. And that's kind of what these guys were doing. They were doing like higher brow science fiction material, but they wanted to shoot something, and this was something that was tangible that we could shoot. And when those doors opened, that's where I saw the Hollywood process. The process is, there's a boat and it's going to a new land, and everyone starts to jump in, whether it's agents, whether it's talent, whether it's money, producers. Yeah, it's everything. And so that was daunting. That was scary, because it's a lot like speed dating. You're meeting a lot of people. You meet a lot of great actors, which is always exciting and also disenchanting, because you meet people you watch on TV and you're excited about, and sometimes they're great, sometimes they're not.
Did you, because I know the budget went up, once certain people became attached, did you, like, when they're like, okay, so so-and-so's attached, now the budget's this, were you like, why?
Yeah, absolutely. Every time you're like, why?
Why is it all of a sudden $1 million more when like it's just an act?
Every time there's so much money wasted on movies, and again, like, I don't want people to work for slave labor, but at the same time there's a lot of waste. So it's like, for me, making a movie is really about, it's almost like cooking a great meal. Like, do you want some leftovers? Yeah, absolutely. But you're not like trying to make a buffet to where you're feeding everyone in the world. It's like, you need a very specific amount of what you have, and you need to execute it very specifically and very thoroughly. So for me, when the budget starts going up, I don't care about why is my paycheck not going up or anything like that. For me, it's really like, well, now the movie's just costing more, and we're not that we're not adding value to it, but it's like, like this person or this thing, it's like when the budget goes up $1 million, that doesn't mean I get a crane. That doesn't mean I get more days. In fact, I probably get less days because of
How many days shooting was Josie?
20 shooting days.
That's
and we shot it all in Burbank, and we were supposed to shoot in Atlanta, we were supposed to shoot in Florida, we were supposed to shoot in Canada. So it was just it was just one of those things where I realized that and I say this not to talk poorly about anyone in Hollywood or any of the collaborators that I've worked with, but I saw how a movie can very quickly just become an opportunity to do something as opposed to actually focusing on what you're doing, because the art suddenly became secondary to everything. It became all about the money, recouping the money. It became like there was interest on the money that I didn't even know about. So, that's a scary place to put an artist and a filmmaker, because suddenly you're being rushed towards deadlines and accomplishments and things that you don't even know why they exist. And I
they're
think
kind of arbitrage, you know what I mean? Like, like, how do you know how long it takes to edit a movie? You know what I mean?
Well, not only that, but I think one of the biggest, easily the biggest scare and shock outside of like some of the pre-production and casting stuff that we went through, because like that was the other side for me. Like, we announced the movie with an entirely different cast than what we shot with, so it was very it was a very like, hey, we were trying to make this movie under this title, and then it became that, you know. So I think it was very obvious for a lot of people who saw it and watched the process, but it very quickly became something different, because I think after the first week of shooting, we were being flipped by the union. We had 15 new producers on set. Like, I was meeting new people every
15
day.
producers.
Yeah,
That's
we had so
insane.
many new financiers. Like, I think literally 10 to 12 different people put money into the movie, and
They all kind of want to say it, or at least like to be heard.
Oh yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Like, you put in $100,000 to a movie, it's like you expect to at least be able to say what changes get to made here and there, but and that's fair, but it's like I didn't know that person when we started, you know.
Right.
So now these notes are being brought to me, and it's like I'm already shooting in Burbank, which is where I didn't want to shoot, and I'm shooting with a cast that I wasn't prepared to shoot with, and it just brings about its own challenges. But again, for me, it's always a learning experience, so I try to roll with it and appreciate it. But I will. It's tough to admit, but by the end of it, there was a point where I was like, I'm living my dream. I'm directing a movie with big actors, and it's a multi-million-dollar movie now, but I was like, I'm completely miserable because
It's interesting.
it wasn't, and it never is, you know. It's you have these expectations. It's never perfect, but it was just tough to realize that, like, you're there for a specific reason, to tell a story, to collaborate with these artists. You've got these actors who are bearing their soul and being vulnerable, and at the same time you've got people who are like in Video Village pitching new projects, and like, I've got a script for this, you should read that. It's a business, and and that becomes very scary and very daunting to someone like me who comes from Arkansas, and I'm like, all I want to do is make movies, you know. So seeing that was like the ugly side of the business that I was like, I don't want to go into that too much, but it's a necessary evil, and that's kind of
I don't think there's a single filmmaker that exists that's like, oh, I love that business side of it. It's so great. I love it, just interrupting my artistic creativity and just roadblock after roadblock. I love it.
and for me, the creativity part, yes. Like, and I'm always terrified to go there, because sometimes I can be like Director Kubrick, you know. And it's like you're messing with my art, but at the same time, for me, it's just about like, let's not waste our time.
Right.
You know, it's like, when I read a screenplay, when I write a screenplay, it's like I'm sometimes naively not thinking about it enough, but especially now, I'm like, do I want to give 2 years of my life to this? You know, because even now, I'm writing on screenplays that I'll probably not want to make, you know, and I hate that, but I know I have to do it because I have to get the product out, and I have to tell the stories, and that's just part of the evolution.
You never
as a
know.
filmmaker.
One of those ones might
come up later.
Be the one that's like, you just worked, all the pieces come together.
I just watched the De Palma documentary again.
I watched it last night. I got halfway through, but
I watched it like 2 nights ago.
Super interesting.
I love it. Yeah.
I love the fact, and I've said this before, and he's right. That will never exist again. And this actually leads into where I want to go. We're going to kind of be wrapping up here in a little bit, but kind of the future and stuff like that. But that 70s to 80s, like those guys.
It was a special time.
Not only were they talented through the roof, but like they were doing their
even
shit.
through the 90s, man. Like even.
But they were exchanging scripts, working on each other. Hey, I don't know how to do this. Spielberg, that's my favorite. Spielberg ran like C camera
on
Scarface. Like people don't know that, and like I think that's super important, because I just don't think now, and this is where I want to go. Like where you think like we've talked a little bit, but future of filmmaking and stuff like that. It almost seems like it's to me it's like the chances of you making it, breaking out, are so small now that I think people are really holding their cards close to their chest.
Yeah, absolutely.
And if we could somehow like get rid, and like, why can't the filmmakers take Hollywood back?
Well, I think in a weird way we are, but it's not the way we expect. And I think that's just the natural shift. I think people tend to want to see things go back to how they were, and that's nice, but it's also, nothing ever stays the same, and that's what's kind of scary about everything. And I think for Hollywood, you're seeing the takeover of artists again, because like look at Netflix, right? Netflix is financing $100 million movies for David Fincher and Martin Scorsese and all these great filmmakers, and they're doing that because they know that people want to pay attention to good content. Like we watch a lot of bad content, but also the cream rises to the top, I think. And I think we're seeing the breakdown of different types of content, and like I know a bunch of guys who are like way more into video games than I am. Like they're doing the bigger action studio films, because that's kind of like I don't want to take those guys' jobs. Like that's not for me. I want to make the horror movies, and I want to do the thrillers and the things like that. So it's just one of those things where it's like I think we're seeing Hollywood kind of become fragmented into these different aspects where people are just going to start doing what they're good at. And, maybe you don't see as much crossover, because one of the things I liked about the De Palma documentary is you see, the risks and the chances that he took on certain movies that are, like Wise Guys and, some of these comedies that are a little upbeat or Get the Girl, and same thing could be said for most filmmakers, it's like I'm a big Wes Craven fan, and you can see the movies in his filmography where, he was doing it for the paycheck, and, so you...
Well, and then you see the ones, what was it, Red Eye.
Yeah,
that was a great departure.
Yeah, exactly.
Of like, nope, I'm gonna do a thriller heist movie.
And I love seeing kind of the careers and the way those things pay off, but they really do end up coming back. So it's like it always blows my mind. I've heard the story about De Palma and Friedkin and Cruising, and it's like, De Palma always says that he wrote a screenplay for Cruising that never happened, and I'm just always like. He said something about like couldn't get the rights to the book or something, and I'm like, what kind of weirdo writes a screenplay before he gets the rights to the book? Like
done.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I've done like test scenes or something like that, but like I can't write a full screenplay before I get the rights to the book, because like I'll talk myself out of it. Like I just can't. But that's a creative thing. Like I'm also the guy who shoots an entire movie and doesn't release it.
Right.
Like
exactly.
There are things that people do but it's like it will, like we're talking about Hostile Encounter right now. It always comes up, and it's always fascinating to me, because to me that creates the story. Like I sometimes as a nerd get excited. It's kind of like what we're doing right now. You get excited about the stories behind the stories.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's those are crucial and essential. And like, dude, I mean, before YouTube, I would watch or listen to every director's commentary, audio commentary. You know what I mean? Like when that was a big thing. I don't know. I mean, I don't watch DVDs really.
Oh, I do. I still get a lot of Blu-rays. I still watch a lot.
My Blu-ray player broke.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I watch a lot behind the scenes on like YouTube and stuff too, though.
Yeah, or like Hollywood Reporter does good like round tables.
New York Times does too.
But those are things, because not only are they like, I think it's just helpful of like, all right, well, because then once you get in the field and you're doing your own thing, you're like, well. He did it. Yeah. Like, why can't we?
Well, I think that was one of the bigger issues for me growing up in Arkansas, was there just weren't enough reference points for, that's a filmmaker. Like, I heard about Bill Clinton, I heard about Billy Bob Thornton, and, I heard about a few people from Arkansas, but there was no one to really point to and say this. Like, there was a guy from my high school who was shooting, like, reality TV for MTV at the time, and he was the closest thing, So when I saw what he was doing, I was like, man, this is really cool for you, and I dig it, and I would love to do it too, but I was like, I don't know if I can do this and chase film at the same time, So it was very trial and error for me, and I love that the internet has so many resources now that you really can I remember when I was a kid, I used to be obsessed with like, what kind of car does Quentin Tarantino drive? Like what does a filmmaker's life look like? Because I didn't know, and so I like that you can become that intimate and personal with people in a scary way, but also at the same time, like, you can figure out what it's like to be on a movie set now. Like you can literally watch live streams on Nicholas Winding Refn's movie sets from Facebook, and literally watch him walk around and give notes, and and you can get.
I think that's so powerful. I think that's and a lot of people are like, well, not a lot of people. It's funny that the studio, everything's a secret.
Yeah, it's all
right.
secret.
The new Marvel script, like, can't see. It's like. Give me 20 minutes, I'm pretty sure I could recite, every major, a beat that you're going to hit, and, or it's just a matter of
color palette, I can tell you your musical palette, I can tell you your story arcs.
That they want to keep these things so, like, hidden and close, and I'm like, fuck it, show them everything. Tell them everything. I've said before, I think the screenplay should be published as its own work of art.
It's one of those things where it's like, it's not for everyone, because I get that some people want to go in cold, but it's out there. Like, if you want to go see it, go see it. I feel like it's kind of like any other thing that people are interested in. It's like, if all you want to do is buy cars, just go to the car lot and buy your cars, go shopping, But it's like, if you're interested in the engine, go in the back,
Right,
and I feel the same way about the movie theater. Like, if you're only interested in paying for your ticket and going in and watch the movie, go do that. But if you're interested in more, go home, get on YouTube and learn it. You can do that.
You can learn. Yeah. So I'm gonna be. This went by really fast.
Yeah.
Wrap up. I usually end each one with a movie recommendation.
Oh goodness.
So I'll let you start thinking of that, and I try to keep it within the framework of kind of what we've been talking about. I've been plugging your movies. I'm gonna recommend all of them.
Oh, thank you.
But beyond that, I just saw a film. That was on my. It was on. You ever? So I don't go to the theaters a lot anymore, right? So VOD is like my thing. Like Tuesdays are like my favorite day of the week, right? Yeah. And so it was on my VOD, $5.99, $5.99, like but didn't know the filmmakers, and it's another zombie movie, and I'm just like I've seen it, you know what I mean, like. And so then it was finally on Prime, and I was like, all right, it's free, so I'll watch it, and I watched it.
What's it called?
Last night. The Night Eats the World.
Okay, I haven't seen this one.
It's really good, especially for like a take on a zombie. So I mean, it all takes place in Paris, but it's in English. The main actor carries the entire. I mean, he's at a party, goes into a room. You know what I mean? Passes out. In that night, zombie apocalypse happens, and so now he's stuck in this apartment, like the whole movie, and it's really good. It's really it doesn't go the places that you typically would assume a genre type film would go. Like, oh, he's gonna go. And it's like, nope, or you're gonna bring in more characters and stuff. It's like, nope. They just kind of let this guy like do it, and so it's very, a good little hour and a half, 35 minutes or whatever. But
nice.
That and then and go see Contracted, and watch Josie if you want to be a filmmaker.
Yeah, it's on Hulu right now.
Go look at Get the Girls movie poster if you want to be inspired for pop art culture. You're a very good filmmaker. And
Thank you, man.
Anything that comes out, I'm excited and looking forward to.
Thank you, man. I really appreciate that.
So, do you have a movie recommendation?
Yeah, I saw. I was just thinking about it. I'm so behind on movies this year, but I just saw something that really blew me away, and it was Cam on Netflix.
I wondered about that. Yeah,
it's really good. I'm a little biased. The star is a friend of mine. I actually met her on auditions for Get the Girl. I was going to cast her as the lead in Get the Girl, because I loved her work on Orange is the New Black. Her name's Maddie Brewer, and but she was just too young at the time. I thought she was a little older, and when I first met her, I was like, oh, you're still a baby. And but now she's done Cam, and she's been blowing up doing Orange is the New Black and Handmaid's Tale, and so Cam came about, and I just think it's phenomenal. I wrote a screenplay that was very similar to this in a lot of ways, so I was excited, and I never really pursued it, and so I was excited to see that the idea was done in a very, very quality way, but the movie just it speaks to kind of the generation that we're seeing now, which is a lot more sexually liberated, a lot more open, and also like we're seeing avenues of careers like cam girls and certain types of sex work become more acceptable within the society and seen as a valuable way of making ends meet instead of like this dirty thing that we don't talk about, So it's cool to see that portrayed in a very humane and respectful way, but more than that, it speaks to a lot of what we're suffering from as a culture with identity crises and just issues that we have with projecting ourselves online and what's really happening and going on with us and needing to be validated by people's attention and things like that. It's really, really smart and intelligent. I want to say it was a first-time director, maybe even a first-time writer. So just one of those like lightning in a bottle type experiences where it's like the filmmakers just came to play. I think Blumhouse produced it, and they just it's razor sharp. I like
nice.
It a lot,
I'm gonna watch that tonight because it's on my radar. Of like I was like but again there's
so much
thousand
out there. There's so much out there, and that's why I try to be particularly picky. But yeah, I get, a good movie. Raw was another one that I saw that I really, really liked. I think that was last year. But it was, the Cam really, really, really messed me up. So I liked it in a good way.
Nice.
Yeah.
Mr. Eric England.
Yeah.
That's it.
Awesome.
Thank you very much for doing this.
Thank you, man. I appreciate it.
You're a stud.
Yeah.
You're a gentleman.
Thank you.
Don't know how much of a scholar, but
No.
overall a good dude. If you enjoyed listening to this podcast, if you're first time listening, thanks for joining us.
Yeah.
You can find this anywhere that podcasts are available or on my YouTube channel if you're watching the video. What else? Final thoughts, last words? You got anything coming up?
I'm writing a bunch of stuff right now, and I just got something really big put on my radar that, fingers crossed, I'm hoping.
Black Panther 2?
Yeah, I wish. I'm definitely, the only thing I know that's on my horizon is just more horror. Like I decided I'm gonna fully jump back into the genre, and I may even just go full out horror from here on. We'll see. But I'm gonna run down that road for as long as I can, because I recently spent this last summer just kind of rediscovering my passion for what brought me out here. I crossed the 10-year mark of being out here last year, and I was like, what do I want to do for the next 10 years? What are the next few
You're still
years?
young.
Yeah, I try.
Younger than me.
I feel 80. But yeah, I was like, in a weird way, it's something I don't tell a lot of people, but I almost took my first few movies as just like dipping my toes in the water to see if this could work out. So now for the first time, I'm like, all right, maybe I should actually like not try, but just like map it out and not just like jump in and figure it out. Because like I said, I was really just dancing, hoping no one was going to ask me to leave the club,
Yeah.
And now that I'm like, all right, we made it through. We're here Saturday night.
I can almost kind of see that because, you've done 6?
Technically 6, but 5
6
movies.
feature films.
5 features, yeah.
And I said before when we met for coffee, it's like, and Disney isn't knocking at your door, you know what I mean?
well-
Like, 6 features, that's a lot.
Yeah, but at the same time, there's they're not the greatest. It's just a work in progress. For me, I wish I was born Steven Spielberg and my parents gave me a camera as a kid, and I had all these stories and ideas fixated in my head, and I grew up with a history background and scholars for parents, but I didn't. I was dealt the cards I was dealt. So for me, it's like let's just keep playing in the sand, figuring it out, and my motto is always make movies, have fun, and be good to the people that you're watching.
Right.
Respect your audience, respect the people that are working with you, and enjoy what you're doing. I think the world will be a better place when we do that. So it's for me, it's like I want to scare audiences so that the reality we live in isn't as scary anymore.
Right.
And the only way I know how to do that is just keep doing it. So what's next is all horror.
Nice.
Yeah.
Love it.
Awesome.
That's it. Thank you very much for watching. Thank you for listening. Eric, thank you for being here.
Thanks.
In the meantime, go out and go make your movie.
Yeah.
RynoRyder, out.